YouTube? This is yours truly, Dre the Plug, reporting live with some more technical heat. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe button below. Make sure y'all hit that bell below so y'all can stay notified every single time I drop new technical heat. But let's get into it, man. Let's jump right back into these interviews. I just finished a whole bunch of sponsorship product videos, so definitely go check all of those out. Some of them I never even seen in person, so I thought it was really dope. And then on top of that, also did a couple of electronic projects, so definitely go check out those previous videos I did. But now I'm about to jump right back into my interview videos where I interview different people all across the country. Let's get into it. Roll the clip.
Hey everybody, my name is David Alexander, coming here from Houston, Texas. So I moved to Houston, Texas back in 2013 when I came down to Prairie View. Prairie View was my university of choice by my mother's idea. She wanted me to always go to a HBCU. She wanted that to be like the staple to know like what our culture is like and kind of redefine like what the college experience could be. So I think Prairie View was one of the greatest decisions that I probably ever made so far, but still got a long life to live. So let's see. Moved down to Prairie View in 2018. I got my degree in electrical engineering. And after that, I thought I was going to move back to Dallas, where my family is at. But that was absolutely not the case. I actually ended up moving to Houston, Texas, where I started working for Accenture as a data guy. They call it data engineering or a data consultant. When I moved there or moved to Houston, I started that journey, and I really didn't know what to expect in, what is consulting, right? Like, so Accenture is a consulting company, but what is that? Like, what does my day-to-day look like? And I actually didn't know, but I think it was a pretty good decision because for me, I was able to use my engineering background, my technical skills, but I'm also a people person. So I still had, that day-to-day interaction with somebody as I felt like I needed to continue to grow. After moving here, getting established, starting, my journey at Accenture, I then opened up my business, Alexander Investments, which is a real estate company. And more or less, we are investors into the real estate market. We do fix and flips. We do long-term rentals, short-term rentals. And it's something that really kind of just redrives my focus into how can I establish a brand that exemplifies a lot of the characters that I've grown to have over the last couple of years.
What benefits have you found in this field?
So in consulting, it's pretty unique. It's a pretty unique place to be. And I say that because you get to work with diverse teams. You get to have different job possibilities. And the things that I've heard about Accenture over the last 5 years that I've been here, and even before when taking the opportunity back in 2018, they were saying that once you have this on your resume, you'll be able to start your own business. Like the Accenture way of thinking is world renowned. So they're able to start your understanding of how business works, broaden your communication and your network, understand how these different projects work. And then in consulting, there's so many different opportunities in there, like you'll never work on the same engagement. And so I found that most beneficial because I like to find new challenges and, put myself in different situations that allow me to continue to grow and be diverse in that change.
All right, David, so what's something that you did not expect jumping into this field?
So one thing that I didn't expect to happen, coming into this field, I thought I would use my degree a lot more. I thought that the stuff that we learned in school would be more practical in my line of work, but I learned that the degree just simply gets you in the door and your interest drives your career. And I'm finding that to be, a common theme across a lot of industries, of a lot of the friends that I have, that we're not really, unless you're an absolutely true heart-to-heart electrical engineer, I'm not figuring out, how much current is running through a circuit in my engineering life, right? Like, I feel like going to school and getting your degree, I think if you have the time or the capacity, you should absolutely start a business you should absolutely find something that's a passion project for you so that when you get in the real world, you're able to take a lot of the skills that you learned in college and make them transferable. So coming to, consulting from an engineering background, I would have given myself that advice being in college.
All right, David. So knowing what you know now, looking back, after you done already got the degree, what's something that you would do differently, knowing what you know now, if you was to go back in time? What would you tell your younger self?
So when I was in school, I was already entrepreneurial mind. Well, I had an entrepreneurial mindset. So one thing that I did in school to kind of help make ends meet. So when I first got to Prairie View, it was all good. I was on the track team. We had travels every weekend. We had practice. So it really kept me busy and kept me out of trouble. And it really started to kind of streamline the discipline that I have in my life now. I then started a iPhone fixing business. And so I was fixing different iPhones across campuses. And I think at the time it was probably a range between iPhone 5s and iPhone 8 pluses maybe. So that was like a very strong thing that I did. And I think if I would have began to network in the space of entrepreneurship, it would have allowed me to grow my business even better, more efficient, faster, and I can have a better network, a broader network to pick their mind. So I think back in school, I used to do this thing where it was, if I was an engineer, I was an engineer, and I would talk to the engineers about that. But I think if we go to college and we become siloed like that, it'll limit the capacity that you could go towards. Because think about it now, Andre, you got all of these different businesses going on. Imagine if we would have just talked about it in college, how much further we could have gone. And now we're 5 years out of school, reconnecting, rekindling, some different business ventures that you have, right? Like, what if we could have grown these in college? And I think if I would have done that, I would have been able to reap the benefits a lot sooner, right? So go to college, network outside of your degree, and actually get to know the people and what they want to do outside of college earlier.
All right, David, what are some habits that is extremely beneficial to you now that you graduated college?
A continuation of the habits that I've built. Like I was saying, I built on my weaknesses. So now I read at least one book a month. And some of my favorite books so far has been The Homestead Hero by James Turner, Setting Boundaries and Finding Peace, Know Thyself by Naeem Akbar, 7 Levels of Intimacy by Matthew Kelly, and then also David Goggins' You Can't Hurt Me. Those are some of my favorite books this year so far. And I started journaling. That's another game changer. When you start journaling in your life, it'll literally change the way you start thinking about your emotions. And then the second part of understanding your emotions is I started attending therapy. And that was like a huge milestone for me, but I've created the habit of talking to a professional to understand myself a little bit better. Because if you're telling your friend, they may not necessarily have the answer for you, but sometimes the answers that you need is within yourself, and you just need the right people to kind of have that conversation with. So those are some of the habits that I've created over the last, 5 years being out of college.
All right, David, so jumping into your side hustle, tell me how you got into real estate.
So real estate came to me more so based off of an interest. I originally had a mentor who she's well respected in Houston, Alexa St. Julian. She's been a realtor for 30 plus years, so she has multiple connections throughout the city. So working with her, I got an opportunity actually through my fraternity. I had told one of my line brothers a while back, like, hey man, I would love to buy a house. I feel like it would be a great opportunity for me. Coming from Dallas, I just feel like I need to own something. I got my 9 to 5, but at this time I really, really wanted to buy a new car. I had a 2002 Honda Accord, and that was my baby. And I really wanted to buy a new car, but all of my mentors kept saying, hey, before you buy a car, buy a house. Before you buy a car, buy a house. So I was like, you know what? I got a little change in my pocket now. Let me figure out how I can buy a house. And I remember I told my line brother, hey, if you know anybody that's trying, look, I'm fresh out of college, not really doing real networking. I'm just casually saying like, hey, if you know anybody selling a house, let me know. I want to start exploring those options. And, not to drain it, but a couple of months later, word of mouth, some good people knew that I was looking for an opportunity and decided to kind of take a leap of faith on me and say, hey, like, I know this kid, he's pretty good. I was connected to Miss Alexa, and she changed my life, man. I got into the real estate business unknowingly, I would say.
All right, so can you tell us the process to what all went down when you first got your first property? And then also what inspired all of this to turn into a full-fledged business?
My first property came right before the pandemic in January of 2020. So I originally got a house under market before it hit hard or any of the market conditions. And basically one of the guys that sold it, his parents, it's a very wild connection on why you need to know people, right? So I told my line brother, I want to buy a house. He told his father. His father is pretty much connected into the city. He told a very known chapter member of mine. So I'm in a fraternity. They're having a networking event. They have the conversation. Hey, how are the guys doing? Yo, did you know David's trying to buy a house? Oh, I didn't know that. My wife is a realtor. Boom, now I'm connected to Alexa. Now Alexa has connections throughout the city. And so when she got this call about a house that was coming on a house that wasn't on the market yet, but they wanted to work with her specifically, when those two lines got connected, they basically said, hey, I'm going to give a call to this kid. I'm going to see how serious he is. At this time, I might have been like 21, 22, super young, super eager to buy a house, not actually sure like what it takes to buy a house. But I say that my journey started unknowingly because when I said that I want to buy a house, I don't think that I didn't have $10,000, $20,000. I had $7,000 in my pocket. I scraped across every dime that I could to get this house. Stocks, savings, checkings. Now, I would say, as a disclaimer, advise your financial advisor before doing that because your results could absolutely be different. But I think that God kind of put these people in my life because I needed a lot more guidance than a normal person. So she put me in connection to this guy. The guy basically was selling a house. Turn to find out, he was a coach. He coached my line brother when they were like 8. So this guy had been in this house. He had owned the house since 1975 or something like that. Owned the house. His parents owned it. It was outright. And when they decided to sell it, they were selling it for a significantly higher profit than they bought the house, but it was right at my market value, man. Like I couldn't have made this up. Like the amount of money that I had to buy this house literally was perfect. So when I bought the house, I got it. I didn't really know what to do with it because I was in an apartment at the time and I couldn't break my lease. So I decided to become a landlord. And at this time, I didn't know anything about rentals. I didn't know how to be a landlord. So literally, I'm leaning on Alexa to the best of my ability and, just grit and intelligence and research. I really tried to figure out how do you be a good landlord? How can I provide, the best service to a person that's moving into a property? How do you actually make this property make ready? Right? And what do I need to do to set up to kind of ensure that my investment is protected? So keep in mind, this is January of 2020. We're a month away from the country going into a pandemic or into lockdown. So in lockdown, Alexa gave me some of the best advice that I probably listened to. She said, hey, I see the market kind of turning, not really sure where it's going to go, but I think that you should look into Section 8. And in Section 8, I've always heard all bad things with Section 8. So this is where it became a business. Because now I really have to do my research and have everything set up if I'm going to be working with the government. I think Section 8 has had a bad light, but I think that is one of the best and safest things that you can do if you own a property in the right area, and you're looking to have some financial stability. So Alexander Investments was created when I had to start thinking about an LLC, thinking about a bank account, thinking about a DUNS number, thinking about business credit so I can start renovating this house once it's done. And being a landlord taught me that real estate is a lot more lucrative than it seems. And the more knowledge you have and the bigger network you have, you're able to kind of capitalize on your resources a lot sooner. So I created the business, having the network, having the resources, and I end up selling the house 2 years and 6 months later for about 350% return on my money. And that was the kickstart of the business. At that point, I absolutely fell in love with real estate, and I realized that it is one of the most consistent markets that you can be in if you're looking to start walking away from your 9 to 5, right? And that's pretty much how I got into real estate.
All right, David, so what was it like being an engineer and being in track?
Yeah, man. Being an athlete and being an engineer was pretty difficult. The first 2 years was bearable, right? Classes are beginners. And when I first got to Prairie View, I didn't actually know about the career plan. So my first year there, I took all electives for my first year. So track was good. I was progressing. Classes felt easy. And in that spring semester when I got back on track, man, that was a wake-up call that I needed to definitely buckle down as an engineer. And then in the spring, we also compete. So I had a very stressful spring semester. Now, where the difficulties really started to come in is when right around my junior year or my third year there, I decided to become pledge a Greek fraternity. So I became a Sigma, Phi Beta Sigma. And man, all of that just started stacking on top of each other because I got used to doing so much. Surprisingly, I had a job. I worked on campus. I worked at HEB for a little while. I was an athlete and I was in engineering. So to be honest, I don't know how I did it all, but I think it prepared me pretty well for like the real world, because now I always find myself doing multiple things. I always find myself finding new ways to keep myself busy. So, I mean, it was one of the toughest, patches of my life, but definitely something that is manageable. Yep, I can be found on Instagram. My business page is Alexander Investments, one word. And on my personal page is David B.A. Jr. If you're looking for me on my professional growth and anything that I'm doing at Accenture, typically I try to have a pretty good digital footprint on LinkedIn as well. So you can follow me or even research my name there, David Alexander Jr. You won't be able to miss me.
And that concludes this video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. It really do help my channel when it comes down to the YouTube algorithm. If you guys have any questions regarding anything, just hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on the gram at DreThePlug123. And then also go check out my other YouTube channel. This is actually my second channel. My first one was called Andre ClassicCuts. I basically go in and give tutorials about all types of different haircuts. I actually show people how to do different type of things with the clippers that has never been done, and I pretty much go into detail as to why certain things happen. So definitely go check out that channel. Besides that, be on the lookout for my next content that's dropping. Be on the lookout for it because it's coming real soon. And I'm out.